Medical professionals of Reddit. What's the funniest thing a patient has said under anesthesia?
Yelling for his brother, then whispering loudly to him, "Check to see if I still have my dick. I think they took my dick," then proceeded to flash the whole room. Was recovering a patient after surgery who got ketamine, which has a known side effect of making you super emotional. When she woke up, she started catcalling me, telling me how attractive I was. Then she got worked up because she was thirsty, so I told her I could get her ice chips. As I am getting her ice chips, she starts to go, "I hate to see you leave, but I love to see you go." As I disappear to get her some ice chips, she starts crying real tears as she scared me off and how sorry she was. I apparently can't handle my anesthesia. The first time I woke up, I asked the nurse if I was going to be able to fight by Monday. My wife properly translated that to, "Can he teach his wrestling class?" Before we went home, she wanted to drop off my prescriptions at CVS. She left me locked in the running car. After she dropped off the prescription, she turned around to find me in the CVS, standing in the frozen dairy section, holding German chocolate ice cream. I told her I needed it because my people made it. Car was still running with the passenger door left open. 18-year-old girl recognized the male anesthesiologist from Tinder last week and accused him multiple times of not showing up to their agreed date, while randomly falling half asleep in between. As we put her back in bed, she mumbled that she is not even mad, just generally disappointed in men, and that she still thinks he's pretty. I'm a doctor and was getting a knee reconstruction and asked one of my best friend's dad to do my anesthetic. He was head of department at the hospital I worked at the time. Apparently, after he gave me the midazolam to chill time out, and basically I forget everything from then on, he inserted a local anesthetic block into my leg. The next day, he told me what happened. Apparently, I then told him it's not working and he should have done it higher up, and tried to grab the needle from him to show him after I asked if he knew what he was doing. I also complained the bed was cold. We still have a good laugh about it. Anesthesiologist here. During recovery from general anesthesia, I called one of my patients by his full name in a loud voice. He opened his eyes, suddenly jumped upright, and sit on the bed, and he said something. "Sir?" "Yes, sir." He was under military service at that time. In the early days of my surgical training, there was a day that I was assigned to a colonoscopy list. Standard practice is to premedicate patients in the anesthetic bay if required, particularly if they are a bit anxious about the procedure. I was clerking one of the patients in the anesthetic bay, going through consent and the usual pre-op routine when I noticed that she was giving me these weird sidelong glances, and that her eyes would dart away every time I tried to make eye contact with her. She was also extremely fidgety and was stammering a lot in her responses to my questions. I kind of shrugged it off as preoperative nervousness and let the anesthetist do his business. Fast forward 10 minutes and I'm standing behind her. She curled up into the fetal position with her ass hanging out and I, colonoscope in hand. As the propofol starts rushing through her veins, she turns right around, grips my forearm and stares up at me with a dreamy look on her face and goes, "You know what, doc? I bet you kill it with the ladies." A moment later, she was asleep, and I was checking her colon for polyps. Not a doctor, but I was told by my dentist that when he was prepping me to remove my wisdom teeth, I asked him why he became a dentist. I vaguely remember him telling me a story about how when he was a preteen, he was at a local pool, running around when he slipped and smashed his chin on concrete and shattered some of his teeth. Ouch. He was amazed at how well they reconstructed his teeth that he decided to go into dentistry. Apparently, I then looked this man in the eyes and said, "Well, that's a stupid fucking reason to become a dentist." Sorry, Dr. J, grimacing face. Had a patient come into recovery after surgery. She farted so long and loud the entire 20-bed unit heard her. Then she said, "I was trying to clear my throat. Excuse me. And I want a vanilla latte. I got a headache." As medical professionals, we had to hold in the laughter, but that didn't stop patients from turning into hyenas. I'm preparing to salsa dance. When I was a toddler, my mom fell off our roof and broke her back. Apparently, she was terrified she was going to become a vegetable, because after her back surgery, she asked the nurse, "Am I a broccoli or a cauliflower?" Woman woke up from surgery and said to her husband, "David, that alarm clock has a nose and it's running. Wipe it." The very first time I was in third grade and was relatively scared. What kept me brave was the promise of Burger King breakfast afterwards. It was an early morning procedure that required fasting, and I rarely got fast food. They ended up running behind that day, so it was up in the air if I would wake up and get out in time to get my breakfast, which ended at 10. The first words out of my mouth were, "What time is it?" When my mom informed me it was already about 9:30, I tried to get out of bed and nearly ripped out my 4 in the process. When she tried to tell me that we would be late and I could get it another day, I promptly burst into tears. Not a medical professional, but my mom was coming out from under anesthesia after a procedure a few years ago, and I was trying to help her. She puckered her lips, so I picked up her water cup and asked if she wanted some. She turned her face toward me and said, "Do I look like an airplane?" The nurses and I completely lost it. I still tease her about it sometimes. I'm a consultant anesthetist, UK, and there are loads. Often declarations of love from the patient as the drugs are kicking in. My all-time favorite is a 40-something guy a few years ago. He needed a testicle removing for cancer. He'd never had an anesthetic before and was super nervous, to the point of barely saying anything to anyone. As the drugs started to kick in, we realized someone was quietly singing. It was the patient. Hitler has only got one ball. I gave a kid methoxyflurane after he broke his arm. When we got to the hospital, he went into the pediatric section of the ED, and there were stickers on the wall of Sesame Street characters. He started talking about this unicorn on the wall. There wasn't one. And Hal was trying to be friends with Elmo, but Elmo didn't want to be friends with him. His mom and I had a chuckle, and I had to pry the whistle out of his hands. Dislocated my shoulder in a way that my arm ended up stuck up over my head. Apparently, while all hopped up on Demerol, I was laughing hysterically while the doctor was standing on the table/gurney wrestling with my arm to get it back into the socket. I don't remember a thing. I had double jaw surgery to correct my underbite. I took sign language in college. They typically don't wire your jaws shut anymore. They just use strong rubber bands, but you can still talk. I knew I'd be able to talk. Yet when I woke up from the surgery, apparently I kept trying to sign. The nurses were like, we don't know sign language, honey. Based on how little I remember from college, I'm certain it wasn't even good sign language. This woman undergoing C-section under spinal anesthesia plus ketamine said, "Show my baby first to my brother-in-law. He deserves to see her first." I sometimes wonder what happened to her marriage after that.